Yes, hello everybody, welcome back to Classic Dirt Bike TV, and as you can see we're back in CDB TV HQ once again after our recent outdoor travels and our 3-day event covering that fantastic Offroad Motorsport Festival at Drumlanrig Castle. Now we've pretty much done and dusted with all of the bikes from around the paddock, but of course we've still got all of the racing footage to sieve through for the Saturday and Sunday, but we'll get to that very soon, and it looks like that's going to be another 4 videos at approximately an hour each, so we've still got a lot of footage to post from that fantastic event. But what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at some of the interviews that local man John McCrink did with a few of the local celebrities that attended Drumlanrig this year. So that's what we're going to take a look at now, and after this next video we'll get down to posting all of the racing from the Saturday and Sunday. So let's get into the interviews now, and let's take a look at what happened on the Saturday night.
Right, our guests are about to mount the scaffold, sorry, the stage. So Jimmy, Billy, would you come and take a seat? Tony, you know this guy well, you might want to even sit beside him. Bill, come and join us. Eddie, come and join us. Are you okay going up there? Got your pint with you?
Remember that. Were you aware of it?
Freedom Dumfries and Galloway men together. We've now got a Cumbrian taking to the scaffold stage. We've got Bill.
When he was black.
Where's Willie Wallace?
Yeah.
Willie, come and join us. Paul Chiappa, Paul, come and join us. What's your step?
Rob's podcast.
It is a high step. Andy Dykes is there.
That night, you know, in the bar. Well, he was talking. He didn't have build me up, I'll tell you.
I never seen that, but some of the things we did was down, but I never found it. It's people who's fighting up and having more.
Yeah, we were. Yeah.
Although they don't understand what we're saying.
It was a delivery van, and the guy had to put the handbrake on properly. And they were walking. Doing
I used to be a school teacher. I've just taken the register. They're all here.
Yeah, like life changing what happened there.
I'm going to have to do what I used to do when I was a school teacher. Hang on a minute. Hey, excuse me. Could you be quiet, please? I used to be a school teacher. Could be quiet. Anyway, folks, great to have you here in the tent to listen to these guys. But before we start, I'd just like to say a couple of things, and that is we wish Willie Burgess well. Willie had an unfortunate fall yesterday in the grass track, so let's have a wee cheer for Willie and hope that he gets well soon. And the next thing I'd like to say, what a fantastic job our new commentary team did today. They'd never met each other before, they'd never worked together, and Emma Partington and Sean Doherty did a fantastic job, so let's have a big round of applause for them. They really did do themselves proud. I'll be perfectly honest with you, I think they could be a professional team. They really were that good, so a fantastic outcome with the commentary. Anyway, Robert Burns wrote quite a lot of poetry, and I used to recite some of it at school, and there's some of it I can remember and some that I can't. And I can't quite remember which poem it was, but he referred to some group of councillors and high Hegians in the city of Edinburgh as a parcel of rogues, the biggest parcel of rogues in a nation. Well, we've got our own parcel of rogues in a nation here tonight, look at them. So I'm going to introduce them, and starting on the left, local man, Galloway man, the great Tony Craig. So let's have a round of applause for Tony. Another Galloway man, Billy Edwards. Everybody knows Billy. Eddie Graham, a legend in the motorcycle world in Dumfries, ran a fantastic business that we'll talk about later, but more than that, he was a regular and pretty handy scrambler himself. And then we go on to a man we've seen on the track today. We saw him at the grass track last night. He did very well. And it's Mark Fulton from Cumbria. And now in the middle, we've got the legend, the Scottish legend that is Jimmy Aird. Now, Jimmy wasn't he really smiling there a minute ago? But I'm surprised at that because earlier today, somebody bid him for a tyre that he wanted 50 quid for. And the bid was 40. And Jimmy likes a challenge, so he said, I'll toss you for it. And guess who won? Yes, it was Jimmy. It was always going to happen, wasn't it? Every time a coconut. See that two-headed coin? Have you still got it? Here we have another legend, all the way from the Kingdom of Fife. Everybody knows Paul and his commitment to scrambling, his commitment to motorbikes in general. So let's have a big round of applause for Paul Chiappa.
He must like motorbikes.
Popular man in the house tonight. Next to him, another hero of mine when I was a school kid watching the scrambling. He's all the way from Loch Lomond side, and he was 1968 500cc Scottish champion. And what's more, who did he beat to take the championship? Airdy! Hooray! And the most local of men, this is the most local of men we could probably wish for. We've got Andy Dykes here. Now, Andy's a cousin of Fraser's, but he doesn't admit to it. Fraser of AMD Contract Hire, who is our main sponsor, and he's a direct cousin of Fraser. And Andy raced through many decades, but he practiced in the very hills around here. So a big round of applause for Andy Dykes, and we'll speak to him in a minute. And then finally, last but certainly not least, we've got a man that looks like he's going to keep on motocrossing until he's 80 at least. And he's a legend of the sport. He's ridden for all those years. He's sponsored, he kindly sponsored so many riders. He's supplied us with affordable, good clothing. And it's the one and only Bill Brown from Bull Sport. So here we go, folks. It's great to have you all here. And we've got a good bunch, a good eclectic bunch here on stage. Now, I'm not showing favouritism here by starting with a local man. I'm a local man myself. But I'm going to go to Billy Edwards. And Billy has had a lot to live up to because his late father, Willie, was the ultimate scrambles hero of the late 50s and 60s, not just in this area, but in the whole of Scotland. And what's more, he rode in the British Trophy the Nations team in 1961 on a Greaves. And Billy's had a hard act to follow in his scrambling career, but he's managed to do that. So we're going to speak to him. I'm going to give you a mic here. And
so that'd be one of my first proper memories. But I don't have a lot of memories of Dad actually riding, because I was only just a wee fella then, you know. So, but it was always going to be that we'd ride motorbikes, you know.
And as you got older and did start to ride motorbikes, were you aware of the legend that Father Willie was?
Yes and no, probably. I had a huge respect, obviously. I just wanted to do what my dad done, you know. But yeah, I probably was aware that he was a wee bit special in his own way, you know. So yeah.
And he was well known for encouraging you, wasn't he?
He was. Let's say he was determined man. He liked it. He liked things to go his way, and I kind of. Probably over the years I maybe adopted a wee bit of that myself, but yeah, he was legendary for he was a hard man, let's say, John. Yeah.
And we loved him at Airds, I remember as a kid, and he was known in Scotland as Our Willie. Now people write it, I think they think they're being impolite if they write Willie. So everybody called Willie Willie, but if they write his name they say Willie. I don't know why, but he had a distinctive crash helmet, Billy, didn't he?
He did. Well, the story, or my take on the story was, my grandpa was my dad's mechanic. He looked after my dad's bikes and so on. And Gramps struggled to pick my dad out in a pack of motorbikes. So what happened was he came up with this idea. He had a tin of pink paint in the in the shed, and next thing my dad turned out with a pink helmet, and he rode with a pink helmet for years.
Yeah,
and then of course
it.
the Ur Willie thing. I don't know where my dad was, but he came back and my grandpa had painted a little Ur Willie on the front of his helmet, and that was how that came around. So, yeah.
Anybody in the audience not know who Ur Willie is? The cartoon character. Hands up if you don't know who Ur Willie is or was. Oh, everybody seems. Oh no, there's one person there. I'm not going to tell you. That's just tough if you don't know. We'll tell you about it later. Okay. Anyway, getting to your career, Billy. How did that start, and where did it start?
Yeah, well, first motorbike was a 125 Dalesman. That was at Aird's at Chris Maico, and then quickly progressed. As soon as Dad seen I was keen, I got a 125 Suzuki, proper built motorbike back then, and that would be early 70s, 70, 71 I think it was. But Dad being Dad, there wasn't really a great slow boy scene in Scotland, so we travelled south. So my two home clubs was the North West Club, which was Middlewich, Cheshire, and Severn Valley, which was Gloucester. So right away I was in amongst the best in the country, which was the right way to do it actually. So and it just went for the enjoyment. We did thousands of miles up and down the M6 or M1 or wherever it was, you know. So and of course Dad was a fisherman, so he was away through the week. And then home on a Thursday night or a Friday morning, then we were away weekends racing. So,
yeah, so there was that same commitment that he'd shown in his own career was following over the years.
Absolutely. I mean, he was very focused, you know. Yeah.
Now, you were successful in the schoolboy, the British Championships. In fact, you were on the cusp of a win. I seem to recall talking to you about this a while back.
Yeah, there was one that I could genuinely say got away. It was I think it was the ACU finals at Nantwich, and I was riding a 125 Suzuki for Bob Hart at Fowler's Bristol, and it was just when they introduced Bellary oil, the 40-to-1 mixture thing. I had it in the bag. I had to finish, I think it was the top 4 in the last race, and I was lying comfortable third, and it ceased coming down that hill. My dad was more disappointed as I was, I've got to be honest, you know, but that was the one that genuinely got away from me, but these things happen.
And was it the change of oil, or was it the change of the ratio? Was Bellary a different mix?
Well, I think it was the new synthetic oil at the time, I remember, and they were doing this, we were all using, 20 or 24-to-1 with Castrol-based oil, whatever it was, but Bellary and I think Fowler's were bringing it in, and it doesn't matter, these things happen, you know. So.
And then you progressed into the adult scene.
It did, yeah. I was, I got a CCM when I was 16, proper contract with Alan Clues, and we went for I always remember having I had a little FS1E moped at the time, so I had the piston of the moped on the bench in the workshop, and the piston was 580 CCM, you know, and then there was obviously no comparison, you know. I thought, oh, this is the thing. So, yeah, that was my adult career, came out to schoolboys, CCM, and then there was a few in between, finished up riding bikes for Bill, and I had most of my success on that. 79 was my year where I won the Scottish Championship, qualified for the top 35, and then that was us in the British Championship for the following year, so yeah.
You're, at one stage, am I right in thinking you rode Team Green Kawasaki's?
I did, yeah. I was there twice actually. At the time there was an under-18 championship, and I rode a 250 for Alec Wright. And then that year I rode the British Championship in the top 35. I didn't get on with the 1980 Maico. I wish it had been an 81 and I would have got on with it really well, but I changed halfway through the year to a Kawasaki, which turned out maybe wasn't the best move, but these things happen.
They weren't without their own problems. We were talking about metallurgy and
it was I think it was the last or the second last round at Curtin Park, and I broke it in half. the bike actually broke in half. Yeah.
Did it?
Well, they were renowned for it, John. It was part of the thing. So, yeah.
So every time you set off from the start line, you were wondering if this bike was going to break.
Yeah, well, that was there was obviously something wrong with the bikes, because it wasn't just me; it was breaking them, you know. So yeah.
Well, you've had a fantastic career, Billy, and we've enjoyed your success here in Galloway and people further afield. And you're among like-minded guys that have wanted to race and managed to race and made an impact.
Yeah, and I think as well we're talking earlier. We've seen the generations in some fantastic stories, you know. So we're very fortunate, John. Yeah.
Lovely. Well, I'm going to ask you to hand the mic to Bill, if you would. to Bill Brown and well, yesterday. And would anybody, if you know the answer to this, don't tell us, but would anybody like to guess what other sport Bill excelled at? And he was a champion in the sport for 10 successive years. Now, don't, if you know the answer, don't tell us. Just have a guess. A few guesses first before we get the answer. What do you think Bill Brown won 10 successive year championships doing? Come on, somebody guess. Cycling?
Cycling.
No, not cycling.
Don't like it.
No, not carpet bowling. He's too tall, he'd have hurt his back. No, not ballroom dancing. A fefew good guesses there. It wasn't darts, it wasn't snooker. Monty, you're desperate to tell us.
It was pole vaulting.
Pole vaulting. Let's have a round of applause for Bill. 10 years of pole vaulting champion. Now, before we get to your motorcycle life, how did the pole vaulting specifically, because it was part of the Highland Games, wasn't it?
Well, I started at school, John, and I think I'd changed schools, and I had a couple of years at the school, and the PE teacher there was a very keen pole vaulter, and he felt that I could do it. I used to enjoy gymnastics, and he just said, right, at lunchtime I want you up at the sand pit, and I've got a job for you. So I took it straight away, and I think within 6 months I was at the All England Schools Championship, and I finished third. Anyway, then I did a stint for Blackburn Harriers, but it was a pain in the arse. It was a pain in the bum. It was a long way, back and forward. My dad took me, but my heart wasn't in it. I love bikes, John, and I enjoyed pole vaulting, but pole vaulting, the one thing it did do for me, it let me discover Scotland. Right? And I think I said, like I said to you the other night, at Inverary Games, I'd been booked to go there, and I got there, slept in the car, no curtains, no nothing. And there's a knock on the window the next morning, and there's a big burly fella there, and he says, are you here by yourself? I says, yes. He says, no, you're with us. And it was a group of wrestlers that used to tour the Highland Games. At that time, there was 150 Highland Games in Scotland, and they didn't always do pole vaulting, but I had some fun with those wrestlers. There's one of them finished up with a bear, and he was a famous guy. Andy Robin, they called him, and he was funny. He was funny, and I remember also going from Lochern Head to he had a boat down the bottom of the loch. He had an A-type Jaguar and a boat on the back of the trailer, you see, and there's 4 women walking down the road. He stops, me and him in the front. He says, "Get in." And, oh, where are we going to sit? He says, 2 in the back and 2 in the boat. So I thought, all right. But Robin was unbelievable company. But all of the Scots wrestlers, the Flying Scots, the big heap of them, and I did that, I must do it for 10 or 15 years. Dragged our Jean around. She made the chips in the caravan. It's good. Yeah. But you also made some money, Bill. It was relatively well. Well, I sat off with enough money to get up there, and if I didn't win, I'd have had to stay there. Well, it's incredible that I didn't know till I was speaking to you yesterday about that part of your life. Anyway, motocross, like everybody else that was keen in motocross, and particularly your generation, there were 250 production bikes available, not many 500s. So you would have started, did you start on a 500, a Tribza, or? Started with a 500 Ariel. It was a road bike, John, and such a lot of people at the time, Eddie will vouch for this, they were riding converted road bikes. Half of the field had a proper motocross bike. Half of them just, it could be a BSA single, it could be a Norton, it could be all sorts. A big back tyre on, if you look at your 21-inch front wheel. Did the job. Yeah. They were good days. Yeah. They were good days. And it was, everybody raced just as hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I remember about those days, or it seemed to be the case, that these homebrewed scramblers, I loved the fact that the helmet, the petrol tank and the frame were all painted the same colour.
Why not?
It was quite, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
anyway, you did progress.
car.
You did progress to a production bike, didn't you?
I did. What the hell did I progress to? The Cotton, Greaves, all second hand. Greaves, and then an AGS was my first new one.
A Stormer?
Brand new one. In fact, I'd like to ask Eddie, at that time, bikes were sold in kit form, and you avoided duty or tax or something if you bought them in kit form. No, made a big difference, but my first AGS was kit form, but it was purchase tax that we dodged. Yeah. But I would also like to ask you, when the customer put them together themselves, how did you make sure they're running okay? Because as a motorcycle dealer later, obviously you built your bikes up for your customer, but you made sure the jetting, everything else was right, it was running okay. And I often thought, selling bikes in kit form, what if it didn't start or?
Well, we normally put them together for the customer.
Yeah.
And we weren't supposed to.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Andy Dykes, he wasn't involved in that, was it? No.
Yeah, one time.
He got a Suzuki, I remember.
Suzuki,
brand new.
TM400.
Oh,
Bright orange.
the killer.
You're still here?
Yeah.
Anyway, Bill, your career progressed because you were a pretty handy centre scrambler and you had a few great achievements. And then you kind of brought in the Maico, and I mean, it's just a revelation, wasn't it, the Maico?
It was one of them things that you took to or you didn't, and if you liked one, it would ride itself. It wasn't the fastest thing, it wasn't the best, necessarily the best handling thing, but it was the package, and it won a big fan club all over the world, still has. And there's a lot of things haven't been beat, even about now, they don't beat it. On some tracks, you wouldn't go any faster on a brand new bike.
Yeah.
So they're way ahead of the time. So it was very easy to have a love affair with one. And it transformed a lot of people's careers.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah. Now there are people here who rode them and it helped their career. Now talking about people that rode Maicos, and not just the privateers that rode Maicos, but you've sponsored a fair few riders, an awful lot of good riders over many years. And this is a difficult question because there might even be people here that you've sponsored. But I'm going to put you on the spot. It wouldn't just be about riding ability, it would be a package, I'm sure. But I'm going to ask you to name who you think, not your favourite rider, but who you think did the best for you and for himself.
Pete Mayfield.
Pete Mayfield, without hesitation.
Yep.
Yeah. And Math was, well known on the Maicos. And what was the aspects of Pete that made him your choice there?
Consistency, really, as a person. He was never a moaner, never hard work, didn't do bad days, he was one of the few that you could throw parts at and he'd just get on and fix it himself. He didn't complain about anything, he fixed it if there's something not right. But as a person, he's very special. Even today, if my roof blew off my house, he'd be the first person I'd ring to help put me back on. Just couldn't do enough for you. His attitude was, thanks for your help, what can I do for you? And that's how he introduced himself. Look, how can I help you? And it's such a nice change. I mean, most of the lads have been good to work with. And there's two lads here, I'm very proud to have been part of their career. And both of them, sadly, their careers were ended. We never saw the best of both of them, and they both rode Maico very well for me.
Are you talking about...
We didn't see the best of them, just with injury.
You're talking about Mark?
No, I haven't got around to him yet. I've got some shit about Mark.
You're talking about Billy and Tony?
Billy and Tony, yeah, without a doubt. They're a lot of fun, both of them. Yeah.
Okay, well, can't wait to hear this about Mark. I mean, we've enjoyed seeing him riding brilliantly last night and today, but come on, spit it out, Bill. What's this about Mark Fulton?
No. There's all sorts. I wouldn't know where to start. But Mark was with us for quite a few years. And there's one particular trip I remember. We went to the Maico factory. I would take Mark along. So it brightened the journey up, and we had a good laugh all the way down. Anyway, introduced them to the Mice brothers, and they would take us out for a meal this night. And we poked around everything, looked at the bikes, looked at the bits, looked at the dyno, looked at the plans of what they had in mind. And me and Mark, and I forget who the hell else. Bill Wallace. Oh yeah, Bill Wallace. TNMX editor. And anyway, they'd take us out for a night, so that was okay. I went to the Greek restaurant. Anyway, as the night wore on, I found we were forming two groups. There was the German side and the English side, and we're all like doubled up and bloody under the table about nothing. And the Germans were just sitting there. Now, people say the Germans don't have a sense of humour, but I found some of them did, but I just thought I better go and have a word with them, keep the job open with them. I don't want them getting pissed off with me. So anyway, I goes over and I said, I hope you gentlemen are having a good night, and thank you very much. And Mark was with us, laughing his bloody head off, trying to keep his face straight, and I'm trying to keep my face straight. So one of the Mice brothers said, Mr. Brown, you are a comedian. And I said, what? A comedian. You make people laugh. I said, no. He said, I think you are a magician. And I said, sorry, does magic? And I said, no, not really. He says, can you pull the rabbit out of the hat? And I said, no, but I can pull a hair out of my arse. and he just went right over the edge. And I thought, that's got to be, well, it was worth a laugh here, wasn't it? And I thought, that's got to be the crack. He was pissing his pants. And then later, right, sorry, I'm going to finish this story off, right? Later, we went to a nightclub, didn't we? And we lost Bill Wallace. Anyway, there's me and him hunting around this nightclub, looking for Bill Wallace. And I think Mark said, there's got to be a couple of desperate old women around here looking for wherever. I said, aye, there is, you and me. Anyway, we found Bill Wallace, and he kind of come out of the toilet, his face was green, and he puked all over his shoes. And anyway, next day, me and Mark's trying to keep our faces straight, while Bill's interviewing very formally, very correctly, the Mice brothers, and his shoes are all covered in seek from 94. You can remember. There you go.
There you go.
There's a few other little trimmings,
yeah.
but that, yes, the basis of it.
That's my favourite all-time picture that I've ever
Thank you. Thank you, my son. Thank you, David. Oh, good lad. Yeah.
So I'm sure you could go on all night with so many stories, but that's brilliant. So thank you, Bill. Now I'm going to ask you to pass the mic to, a big round of applause for Bill. It's all working. Jimmy's a Scotsman, and the man next to him, Paul Chiappa's a Scotsman. But they're from a particular part of Scotland. They're from the Kingdom, as they like to call it. The Kingdom of Fife, and Monty is as well. And it's always been known as the Kingdom of Fife. But if you look into the history books as to why it's called the Kingdom, back in the distant mists of time, there was a bumper harvest. It was a summer like this, and there was a bumper harvest in what became the Kingdom of Fife. So they didn't have enough places to store the grain, so they sent messages all across Scotland. If people could send as many wicker baskets to this place that became the Kingdom of Fife. But as the story travelled, it got a bit changed, as things do, and it became a story where people were saying, we've to send as many wicked bastards to this place in Scotland. So they emptied all the jails and asylums, and these people all went to this part of Scotland, which became known as the Kingdom of Fife. It's true, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true.
Jimmy, I'm almost about to say it's lovely to see you here, but it is really.
Yeah, you're lucky.
Yeah, we are lucky. Jimmy, you became a hero to lots of Scots scrambles and motocross fans when you came on the scene. And I remember old Willie Milligan of the Galloway Motorcycle Club saying to me, oh, it'll be great at Aird's this weekend, John. Never mind Ernie Page, there's this guy for Kirkcaldy coming, Aird. And I'm going, all right, Aird, oh, that sounds good. On CZs, and we thought, oh, yeah, beauty. And there he was, Jimmy arrived at Aird's, and, you know, it was just off the start line like a scalded cat, and he really was fast and furious. In fact, Jeff Smith wrote in his column once in the Motorcycle Illustrated, if he went slower, he'd be quicker. You know, and it's a funny thing, that. But anyway, Jimmy, tell us a wee bit about the start of your career.
Well, I started actually grass tracking. Friends of mine persuaded me to go to a grass track when I was 15. And it was a Saturday night job in Markinch. Anyway, I had a C15, and I'd done all sorts to it, or my father did. And I think I won the 250 race, and I was third in the Unlimited, so which accounted to about £10 prize money. And I was only getting 250 from my father, so I said, bollocks to this, I'm off. And that's really how it started.
Uh-huh. And you went on to have a sterling start to your career, and you rode the CZs successfully for a long time, but you had stints on all sorts of machinery. I mean, you were a works rider for Norton Villiers on the Stormers, like Bill was talking about earlier, and you rode those well. Uh-huh.
They were never, to be quite honest, I moved on to them after the CZs, because the CZs I had were factory ones through Dave Bickers, and I had a factory mechanic, Stan, and they were really good. You know, they were really special. The 250 had it was the first of the posi lubes. It was no oil in the fuel. It was just straight down to the engine, and it was really quick. And the mechanic says, "Look, all you've got to do is get on that bloody thing and just leave the throttle open." I says, "That's not as easy as it may sound." He says, "Just do it." And I went away, and it was the first coloured TV scramble in Wales, and I won that on that bike. I mean, it was a battle between myself and Brian Wade. We both fell off, but I got up quicker. So, you know, that was the start of it. And then they came along and said, "Right, I've got a big bike for you. It's not a 380 CZ, it's a 420. Oh, all right, okay. Just get on it, ride it. And I did. And it was just too much. It was pulling my arms out my shoulder. It was just ridiculous, you know. It was too powerful. So then he got caught coming out of Czechoslovakia with stuff that he shouldn't have had. And I never seen him again.
Really?
Until 20, 30 years later. I was at the Namur, the motocross, and he grabbed me by the neck. He crept up beside me and grabbed me by the neck, and I thought somebody's going to kill me. It was him. But yeah, there were so many tales that you could tell about it all. It's unreal.
That crash that was on the colour telly, there'll be people here that remember it. It was considered one of the most spectacular motocross crashes of the time.
I was trying to pass Vic.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. I was going to go round about him. And it was at Tweedledown, which was an old army. There was bum holes and everything everywhere. And I thought, well, I'll go round the outside of Vic, I'll pass him. Yeah, but I didn't see the bum hole. So when I hit it, and the bike somersaulted, the throttle jammed, so it went up and it came down on the back wheel, so it shot up again. So yeah, it was a bit of a wreck after that.
Uh-huh. And then from the CZs, which you had so much success on, people remember you for riding the CCMs. I mean, you've still got your CCM, and
Yeah, yeah.
How easy was it switching to the four-stroke? Was that straightforward?
Yeah, really. The thing was, I could remember actually I had a 250 CZ with me, left-hand gear change, CCM was right. So you had to think all the time when you're on each bike, you know.
Uh-huh.
So that was a little bit more difficult than just riding the bike.
Uh-huh.
But the stories that we could tell about CCM is a different thing altogether.
Yeah, well, how about a story or two? I seem to recall speaking to you a while back. I'm sure you fell out with CCM at one stage, and was it
I did.
something to do with the suspension?
Yep, back suspension. It was in about 74 when everybody was moving the shocks up the swinging arm. And I said to Alan Close, I said, look, you know, if you want us to be competitive, you're going to have to do it. Oh no, I can't do that. That's ridiculous. Forget it. You don't need it. I said, well, everybody else is doing it. Why can't we do it? It's a lot more travel on the back. And the reason was they had 30 or 40 swinging arms already made for the next production. So he didn't want to see us with a different swinging arm on them.
Oh.
It was a bit like the other bit. Later on in 79, when the factory bikes came out, I got one and Bob got one, and they said, right, okay, go and try them down at a Haines scramble right down the south. So we went down there, and we were first and second. It was just a bit of a cruise round just to make sure they were all right. And then I said, when I came in, I said, Bob, is that thing coming out the ruts all the time? He says, aye, how's that? What's happening? Because he didn't have a clue. I said, well, let's just have a look at them. And they were looking like Harley Davidsons. They were
So
used,
a big split,
big out, you know. And I went back to the factory and I said, Bob, you're going to have to come with me because he won't listen to me. Went back to the factory with the bikes, and Bob says, I've got an idea, I'll take a Maico frame with me.
You did?
No, Bob did.
Oh, Bob did.
He wanted the Maico frame with him. And we went down to Clouy, so we want the frame the same as that, the same angle on the front. And he went ballistic because it meant, you know, redoing the frames completely. And eventually, Bob says, right, you either do it or we're going. You can write it yourself. So we got them sorted out, and then it was fine then, it was okay, you know, but there were so many problems. I mean, just ridiculous things. I mean, we're down at the south again somewhere, and they kept seizing. Now, a four-stroke, season solid, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't hear of it because he had the electronic ignition on them. He wouldn't hear of it at all. So I went to a British Championship. It was near Darlington, actually. And I went to the local dealer, John Colton. I said, can I borrow the ignition of that bike that you've got there in production, and I'll put it on mine for the championship. I finished third in one of the races, and Alan says, I told you there's nothing wrong with them bikes. I said, hey Alan, hang on a minute. I took the points cover off. He said, right, you're sacked again.
Well, incredible. But you've had great success on the CCM in later years in the twin shock scene, and you won a world championship. I'm trying to remember where that was.
Canada Heights. Yeah, Canada Heights, yeah. And it was one of the Maico guys. We had a bit of a fight, four of us. But it was just one of those things, you know. I mean, it was 4 races, and I thought, there's no way the CCM's going to finish 4 races Saturday and Sunday, none. But it did. And in the last, I think it was about the 2 laps from the end, Herbert Schmidt, he dropped it. Do you remember? He dropped it. And I just went round him, and I was laughing all the way around. I couldn't help it. But I knew Herbert from before because he was many years ago, we were in the 250 Grand Prix with him anyway. So.
That's a great story, I like it. Earlier in Jimmy's career, when I was fascinated by him, I used to go everywhere with a local guy called Dougie Milligan, who was a steady scrambler, did really well. He was runner-up once to Scottish champion. And I remember at a place called Hill House at Linlithgow, Dougie's father was very pernickety, and he made up these little square wooden things with the numbers on them. And my job was to go to a part of the course where I could show Dougie his number, his position in the race. So at Hill House there was a big start straight and a sweeping corner, and the wide sweeping corner changed into a gully that was virtually only 2 bikes wide. And Jimmy has admitted to this, that I wasn't hallucinating. I was waiting for the bikes coming round. I was already away down there before the start. I was waiting for the bikes coming down, and the man that was going to be chasing Jimmy, or Jimmy would be chasing him, was the late great Norman Barrow, a fellow CCM rider at one stage. So I wouldn't give Dougie his number on the first lap because obviously they weren't spread out. So I'm just waiting and watching. And he and Norman came down this gully, and they were both going like this, booting each other, booting each other with the sole of their boots. And I said to Jimmy, I saw that, and he said, yep, you would. And I spoke to Norman years later at the Nostalgia Scramble and told the same story to Norman. And Norman said, oh, I'm ashamed of how I behaved in those days, some of the things I did. And I said, but you were a young man, Norman, you were hot-blooded, it was a pretty frenetic sport. Well, he said, I'm still ashamed. He said, I took my wife out for a meal somewhere in the lakes last Sunday night, and we were just having our starter, and this guy came up and said, you're the bastard that broke my leg 30 years ago. But you were a devious little guy on a bike, because I also know that you won 100 quid. He won 100 quid at that same, was it the same scramble where you, no, it wasn't.
Bassenthwaite.
It was Bassenthwaite, and again it was poor Norman Barrow. And you should tell the story how you won the 100 quid, because Norman was giving you a hard time.
He always gave me a hard time. I'll tell you a wee story about Norman though. We were in France at an international, and we were staying in the same hotel. So us pair, because we're from the north, put us in one room. So we're in the room, I was throwing me stuff about, and Norman says to me, here, what's that thing in the corner? Oh, I said, Norman, I'll tell you what that's for. That's for washing your feet. And he was telling somebody at dinner, he says, I've been washing my feet in one of them new things. And when he just looked at me and he said, right, you bastard, I'm going to get you.
Now, I hope that's not to deviate away from how you won that 100 quid at Bassenthwaite.
Ah, well, he kept on my tail all the time and I was getting sick of him. So there were ruts in the corners. So, this is going to be it, Norm, I'm going to have you. I just pulled the clutch in and stopped. And he ran in the back of me. And then I just pulled away.
That's our Jimmy Aird. He is a fifer, remember? Jimmy, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. We love having you here. Now, I think it's only appropriate that, having spoken to Jimmy, I'm not showing favouritism to the Scots here. I wouldn't do that. Now, I need to reassure one or two people. It's like being executed. You sit there and see the others being executed, because some of these guys, they say they don't like speaking, but then when you get them going, they're fantastic, as they've all proved. And I know that Tony here tells me he doesn't like speaking, but he's a great speaker. Eddie's a good speaker, and Paul's a good speaker. You never get the mic off him. But don't be nervous if you're not being picked in the next thing. Willie Wallace. Now, Willie, your career was like everybody else. You started off on big bikes and whatnot. I think, was it a Tribza you first started on?
I started off in a Greaves Hoxton.
Oh yeah.
I got it in a box, rebuilt it, and I raced for the Lochloman Motorcycle Club. And in these days, with a wee every second Friday night with a wee club scramble. So I learned my apprenticeship. You could say that's started with a lot of other people Dick McFadden and people like that. Anyway.
Keep your mic up. Wait.
Hello.
No, that's it.
You hear better now?
Yeah.
So anyway, and that's where I worked away at that for a couple of years. Mostly all the time I just rode Greaves. And then there were no Greaves, big bikes. So then I had a Tripsa for a wee while, then I had a Gold Star. And it was when I had the Gold Star that Jimmy blames me for breaking his wrist. We're up at Kirkcaldy racing. And I don't know whether anybody's ever raced a Gold Star, but they're very competitive. But when you go into a corner and you take a line with them, you can't change the line. That's it, go through that corner. So Jimmy decided he would come on the inside of me and push me out. But you can't do that with a Gold Star. So he fell off. And then he jumped onto the front handlebars. You see it, I'm going, get off you wee so-and-so. And that's how he broke his wrist. So he blames the other people for breaking his leg, but that's how he says I broke his wrist. So that's about that.
Well, you and Jim raced together for years, and then of course he went down south.
Well, we travelled as well at these days, down south, away down Yeovil and Somerset, doing British Championships, and we didn't do too badly, to be fair, but we finished up leaving on a Friday night, driving all night, raced somewhere on a Saturday, slept under the bikes on Saturday night, raced on a Sunday, back up the road, and back to work on Monday morning. And I dropped Jimmy off at his uncle's place, and where was that? Anyway, it doesn't matter. And so we've known each other for a day or two. So then I raced the Greaves. I finished up to get the Greaves. I got a 360 Greaves. Jimmy Valenti helped me with that. And that would be the first 360 in Scotland, and that's the bike I was winning on.
What was the Greaves? Was it a Challenger that you sent back? Vic Allen brought you one up from the factory.
Oh, Vic, it was decided that the 250 Challenger I had was getting a bit tired. So the factory decided they would send me another one up, because the factory was kind of helping me a bit of it. So the factory decided to send me one up. So that was all right, I thought that's great. So I went out. The bike was, it was a works bike. It was fairly quick, but it was just too quick, I suppose. Anyway, I fell off and bent the whole thing. So Vic just put it back in the van and took it back to the factory that night. That was the end of that bike.
I need to tell you a story about Willie, and he claims he can't remember this, but because I was so keen in scrambling, you sucked it all up in the detail, and it was at the Dunfermline Club in the Kingdom of Fife, where Paul comes from. And a picture had featured in the Motorcycle News of Joel Robert coming over. What was a jump then? Now they're huge jumps, obviously. But he came over, this picture had him coming over the jump in a CZ with one hand off the handlebar waving. And Willie was dared to do the same at this scramble at Dunfermline, and it's exactly what you did. You came over the jump on that 360 Challenger and took your arm off the handlebars.
I don't really particularly remember it, but I quite agree it could quite easily have happened. I was quite happy to do it too.
I was also fascinated. I'd go over to look at his bike, and Willie would be working on the bike ready for the next race, and he had a good pal with him. But this good pal used to sit in the back of the van, and all there was in the back of the van was the good pal and cans of beer. Do you remember that guy?
That's right, aye. Alec Campbell. Alec travelled all over with me, and he was supposed to be my mechanic, but he was well oiled most of the time.
Yeah, I do remember that, Willie. I do as a kid remember that. But you and Jimmy locked swords, but you were always the best of mates. But hey, you must have been chuffed when you beat him in the 1968 championship.
Well, he'd moved down south, so I don't think he was up to all the meetings, and I had attended all the meetings. Well, that's his excuse anyway, you know, but and I don't know whether well, I suppose he's still at the CZ at that time, but with some good kind of toughs in these days.
One thing I know about Jimmy and Willie, they're still great friends. You're not long back from a trip to Ireland.
Yeah.
Motorbike orientated trip once again.
Well, he forced us to go over there just to give him a hand out, put the tent up, I think, so that we needed to pay anybody, you know. And then out of that, I get a wee maybe my supper some nights, but
not 2 courses though.
Well, no, 1 course. And if I got a start and a sweet, that's your lot. But no, I've been good friends for, I don't know, 50 odd years.
Yeah, and you were great to watch in those days, the pair of you. And Peter Reid, sadly, who's not here tonight, he was here today, Peter. Peter's like everybody else from that area, they're not in the first flush of youth, and he wasn't very well, but he made the effort to come, but he just succumbed to not feeling great. So Peter went home, and he was so looking forward to meeting you guys that raced with Peter.
Had a lot of good times with Peter Reid. Peter Reid comes from Drumlanrig Castle, Kennedys, you know, and everybody met there on the Friday night. And we stayed in Peter's house. I got the first boat in the morning to go to Ireland. But we never took any vans, all with the bikes. I got a can with us and a change of clothing, and the Irish boys picked us up. They would take us to the meetings and bring us back, and it was just a way of life. So Vic Allen had as well come over a lot. Jimmy Stewart.
Oh yeah, remember Jimmy? Yeah.
He's not with us any longer, but I could tell you a good story about Jimmy. He's laughing. They would pick us up with all sorts of funny vans, and they picked us up with a furniture van. So that was okay, no bother. Half a dozen bikes in the back, throw us in the back, shut the doors, a roller shutter door thing, and that was fine. But we never knew where we were or anything, couldn't see anything, just rattling about in this old van. So Jimmy was a bit claustrophobic, got a bit of panic. So it was a fiberglass roof, so he just put his fist through the roof and wrecked the van. You know, but
that's what it was like in those days, eh?
Oh, he was quite a rider.
Did he not work with Eric Cheney at one time?
He rode Cheney's bikes after Jerry Scott got killed. And then Jimmy raced in the continent quite a lot. So then he came back and raced here. Then he went to South Africa. I was supposed to go, it's a long story, but I'd stopped racing. So they wouldn't give me an international, ACU wouldn't give me my licence, an international licence back. So the only other people that had one was Jimmy. So he went. So the first race he broke his big toe. That was it's unfortunate, but so he just went to all the meetings. That was all right. So when he got back to the airport with Jimmy to come home, he's at the airport and the girl says, "Oh yes, Mr. Stewart, you've got it's an open ticket you've got." "Oh well, it's going to be frosty in Scotland. I'll just stay here." Lifted the ticket and walked away. But you need to know Jimmy Stewart. That's the person he was.
Yeah. Well, Willie, your friendship with Jimmy has continued all those years, and you know what Willie told me? Willie's a builder. And any time he phones up Jimmy and they're going to go somewhere or he's going to go and visit Jimmy, Jimmy always says, "Bring your tools."
That's true. That could be right. Aye, no, we've gone well over the years.
Yeah. Anyway, let's have a big round of applause for Scotland's other Willie Wallace. Well done, Willie. Now, before we go much further, I think we should speak to a man that's the only one in the room that's been... Oh no, Paul was riding today, but Mark Fulton was on the track today, so could you pass the clobber over to Mark?
Just had a lapse of concentration, the lap from home and went down. And that's what happens, isn't it? That's how it goes.
Yeah. How was the track today? I mean, did it turn out quite good and, you know,
yeah,
surface?
It cut up really rough. The lines come into it in the last race. It was all about lines. Totally changed all day with the riders that's on it. So
Your career, a bit like Billy, started in schoolboy racing, didn't it, Mark?
yeah, yeah. Billy and them was a few years older than me. I was like down here. I remember watching Billy and Jeff Hogg, a local rider, and you always want to be like them that you're watching, you know. So no, it was good times, and it seems a long time ago though now.
But did you become British schoolboy champion?
Yeah, I won the British a couple of times, seniors and experts. But the class of rider was really deep. The depth of rider was, you know, the competition was really stiff in every class. Yeah. But it was a bit like Billy when I was racing. I had to go down to Middlewich. You know, I had to go looking for the better riders, sort of thing. Was down in Cheshire, weren't they, Billy? Yeah, right. Yeah. North West Schoolboys was always competition for us northern lads. So I can remember going down there with my dad in his car with our bike rack on, with the bike on, and it was just a Suzuki TS90 with painting lids on and stuff like that, you know. So I think it made you better stead, you know, setting off like that.
You sent me a photograph of the other day of you riding in a schoolboy scramble, and tell the audience what the gear was you were wearing.
My dad's old Isle of Man TT gear. We cut his levers in half and I set off with them, and I had his old road race boots on with 3-4 pairs of socks on, and I had an old football top on that I played football at school in, and I had all, well, like the thick goggles on like that deep and all that. Painting lids.
See, as a kid wearing that clobber, I wonder if you ever dreamt that someday a man would bring out Wolf Sport and have all that lovely riding gear different to the stuff you wore.
It's totally changed a lot since we set off, but I've been lucky enough to have Bill sponsoring me or looking after me. So.
And you won a couple of Scottish championships, didn't you?
Yeah, I won 3 Scottish championships.
And did you cross swords with Tony in these?
Yeah, me and Tony crossed swords a few times, which was good. There was Scott Gardner, Tony. It definitely wasn't a walk in the park doing the Scottish championships, because the boys also, you know, being in Scotland, they were bad to beat, a bit like the Irish in Ireland. Yeah. But no, it was always fair competition, but strong. You know, Tony's a strong rider and fast, so. Scott Gardner is as well. I met a lot of nice people in Scotland over them years. So.
And then your career, you were riding well and achieving things, and then you had a bad leg break.
82, I broke my leg in the British Championship.
Where did that happen? Where were you riding?
That was at Asian Woods in Frome.
Was that just one of those typical accidents?
Put my foot down and just caught it in a sidecar and just twisted it around and snapped it. That was a turning point in my career at the time, but everybody has injuries, but I lost a good 5 or 6 months then and my confidence dropped.
And were you riding Kawasaki then?
Yeah, I was on for Kawasaki then, yeah.
And did they stand by you while you were recuperating?
Yeah, well, it was a contract for 12 months, but obviously half my budget for the next year, so I left Kawasaki in 82 and I went to ride for Kajiva for 2 years because the money was a little bit better, but I should have stopped at Kawasaki really. But Mike Carter left Kawasaki, he was assistant manager to Alec. He went to Kajiva and he said, Mark, come with me, this, that and one thing and another, and I ended up doing 2 years with them. But the bikes was quick, but you're riding a 190 Kajiva against Tony Craig in the British Support Series, and it was no brainer, you know. It was hard work on that 190. It wasn't ready for that competition.
Really still in development process.
Well, it was a 125 with a big barrel on, that's all it was. Where Tony was sitting on under 500 where I'm sitting on now, and chalk and cheese like the power of the thing. But no, it was 2 years of my career. I maybe shouldn't have went down that road, but that's how it happened.
And after the Kajiva, You went on
I went to ride for Bill for 2 years, 85, 86, which was Willie Simpson, me and Math, wasn't it? Pete Math, Willie and me, which was, that was a strong team then.
It was.
Yeah. Experience and a bit of youth with me and all that, but yeah.
And the Maico after the Kajiva must have been a revelation.
Well, yeah, you had a bit more power and all that. And, no, the Maico was a good bike. I set off, when I was in the schoolboys, like 12, 13, I used to go down practicing with Bill and a few of Maico rides down at Nevertown. And Bill used to give us a go on his 400 Maico. Well, I couldn't touch the bottom either side, so he just used to set us off and away I went. But that 400 Maico was a hell of a good bike. I couldn't handle the 490, it was too powerful, but the 400 Bill was really good. And that's what moulded my career, you know, like riding with Billy and Tony and Bill. You know, it's even watching Jimmy, who I used to call the crab, because he would have me off. When I first went into men, my dad said, keep away from Jimmy, because he'll have you off. And like, no, it was good, you know. There was a lot of good riders then when you went in, and Norman Barrett, Brockbank, Bob Wright. It was hard them days to get a result. But it's made me, no, not knocking, it's made me for what I am now. I know that motocross isn't easy, it's hard. It is.
You make it look easy today though.
Well, yeah, I wasn't feeling easy under the helmet, but no, I was still enjoying it, so we'll keep going till...
And tell us a bit about that Honda, because when you give that the beans, it seems to fairly...
Yeah, it's a good bike, yeah. Stuart Byrne built it. It's got a full Honda 500 engine in with a few tweaks, but no, I like riding it. I'm a little bit fitter this year to be able to handle it. That's why I'm sort of like going a bit better, doing a little bit more health club stuff, which is paid off no end. And
you feel that? You really feel?
Yeah, I can feel
as
that.
the race goes on, you feel.
Well, I was always good for one race, and then after that I was dying, sort of like thing, you know. Where now I can do 3 strong races, hopefully. So that's been a big plus, sort of like the health, trying to keep yourself healthy, not partying as much and drinking as much. So.
That's what you say.
No, it's easy. If you look after yourself, the motocross is a lot easiar.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
You can't jump on them things, you know, if you're not right.
No.
No, not women. No, it's good.
You mentioned being brought off by Jimmy.
Well, no, I kept away from him.
Oh, you never got brought off by Jimmy?
I tried to keep away from him, but...
Well, I was brought off by Jimmy. Honestly, folks, why would Jimmy Aird want to bring off a clubman wobbler like me? I was wobbling around the nostalgia track at Sedbergh, and if you don't believe me, Jeff Shutt has it on video. And I was in the practice, and there'll be loads of folk here that rode at that old track at Sedbergh, and there was only one real hill. You went right off the start, round the tight bend, and zigzag down a camber, and up the only really steepish hill, round a tight left-hander, down the gradient again, and into the right. And I was diddying down there in my CZ, wearing a check shirt like Jimmy Aird used to wear, and there was about 18 inches between me and the post. And the next thing I thought I'd been hit by a bus. And down I went really quickly, and I didn't get time to get my hands down. And I remember the kind of thump, and then I was just lying there, and this guy on a BSA Victor stopped to see if I was okay, and he sat me up, and I said, "What's all the lightning?" He was streaks of lightning. "Oh, you've been KO'd." So the people came to sort me out, and they took me to the first aid tent, and they said, "You'll need to stay here for 40 minutes. So I was going to miss the practice and my first race. Anyway, when they did let me out of the tent, I'm walking back to my van, and Jimmy was at his bike, and he said to me, "Sorry about that, John. If I'd known it was you, I wouldn't have done it." And I said, "I put a neffing curse on your CCM, Jim." And it packed in, he never got a race the whole of the rest of the day. It's a true story. But anyway, Mark, we've enjoyed seeing you, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And I think your racing's, you're right, you probably are benefiting from the fitness level and everything, because it's definitely required to ride those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a big round of applause for Mark Fulton. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, so we're going to continue our Saturday evening interviews from Drumlanrig Castle when we return with part 2, as we've still to hear from the likes of Tony Craig, Andy Dykes, Paul Chiappa and Eddie Graham. And I also think that John's going to have a few words with the legend Neil Hudson as well. So that's all coming up next here on your #1 vintage dirt bike YouTube channel. So stay tuned.